All right, we're live. RTD Live Talk, late night YouTube talk show. Excited to be back for another interesting back and forth with you guys. Hope all is well with everybody. And before we dive any further, let me make sure everything is running smoothly on my end, and then we can begin. Other than that, hoping everyone is having a good time or had a great Monday, rather, great weekend, relaxing weekend. Finally got some good weather here in Detroit, so I was extremely pleased over the weekend to be able to get outside a little bit. But with that being the case, let me check in via chat. We have Death by Debt says Death by Debt. Miss D, we got Electrodynamic Orb says San Francisco area shut down for another month. Wow. Okay, I didn't hear about that. Want to definitely hear more about that one. We got JS says, not surprised. I see stimulus payments as a norm from now on. We have to become a socialist society. So I got an article I want to share with you about that as well. Because once again, that's a part of the game plan is to, keep this thing going, to keep fear in the mainstream news and scare us with the fact that we're going to be dealing with this for some time now. And then also I want to just share with you some stories from the grocery store yesterday when the lady yelled at me and my wife for, I guess, walking down the wrong aisle the wrong way. So just seeing how this invisible enemy is already getting the best of a lot of us. So, but yet we're going to touch on a lot of that. So let me make sure everything is running smoothly on my end. Make sure I can hear myself. Okay, we're good to go. Okay, so let me see if we have any new viewers, let me know where you're watching from. We'd love to welcome you to the live stream. And eventually, as we get into today's session, I'm going to open up the phone lines and would love to hear from you guys when it's available. We got Debt and Regret says, yo, boots on the ground. We got Pabar. We got the New York Rednet said, I just made $1,400 today going out and finding work. That's some good stuff, man. We got Minoan's rule. I'm gonna butcher that. RTD in the White House. Yeah, so I figured I would just come from the press room tonight because I'll probably be the only one in the press room that can actually shoot it straight and not BS the people. And so I figured that'd be a good little way to kick tonight off. So I have a lot of articles because I wasn't able to get to the news update. So we're gonna touch through a lot of things and definitely want to hear from you guys. Mike, for the president, the background is set. Man, being the president, being a politician at this current point is not something that anybody should really want to you shouldn't want to be a politician, because if you are, that means you have to compromise your integrity as well as everything you stand for in order to tell the people what they want to hear so you can get reelected. And that's not me. So I wouldn't necessarily want to do that. It says there are new checks on the 29th. So we're going to get into that. So let me dive right into it. And before I get started, on Friday, for those that had a chance to participate in that little survey I put out there, I thought it was something that we can touch on tonight. So we can start off by touching on that. And I'll put it up here so you guys can see my screen. And let me see here what I got. Let me see. I'm going to pull this up here. So this is the little on the screen here. Am I still playing or what? Okay, there we go. So on the screen here, you guys see I put up a survey on Friday. And I wanted to find out, what do you guys think? Because we're dealing with a lot of issues right now. And of course, everybody's situation is different. And so I wanted to get an overall consensus of what was the most important. And so the question I put out there is, of the options below, which area is the most concerned regarding your future and the current state of our country? Let's talk about it on the next RT Live Talk. So here we are. And so out of 387 votes, an overwhelming your freedom. So freedom obviously is the primary concern and focal point for a lot of people in this current issue, in this current paradigm we're dealing with now. But as I'm watching that, as I'm looking at that, rather, the reason I would imagine that's so high is because everyone who took this survey, you're awake. You've already unplugged from the matrix, and you know what's going on, and you know the true issues at hand. And so that's why freedom is an overwhelming 64%, with your finances up second at 19%, and then you have your health at 17%. And so I would imagine if this type of survey was to be given by those that are not unplugged from the matrix, I would imagine, different demographics, like the older population would probably say their health first, and then those that are looking to retire someday would probably say my finances, and maybe even a little bit younger than that. And then those that are awake, such as the ones you tuning in tonight, probably said freedom. And so I just want to, get your thoughts on that. So did you have a chance to cast your vote? And perhaps you might be one of the individuals that put finances or your health as the primary concern for you. So let me know in the chat real quick, and then we'll keep moving right along and go from there. And so let me see here. It says, I'm going to run for office to make fun of them. It's worth losing to show the truth. I hope the Fed can print meat. We're going to have some food issues. There's a lot of articles out there talking about all the pork factories and all the farmers now having issues with what to do with the cattle. And so we're going to run into some issues, definitely. But I think the ultimate agenda is to basically break the public down to the bare minimum, to where we're dependent upon whatever they roll out. So all those big money players that own all these meat farms and the farming sector especially, I would imagine that they will definitely try to keep food out of the public's hands so that it'll create even more of a sense of desperation, so that whenever they are ready to roll out whatever it is they have planned for us, the people will overwhelmingly accept it with no problem. And so between now and that time, it's a matter of people, as it says here, a lot of people are concerned with their freedom. And so one of the things I wanted to touch on is that freedom, it's in of itself, the way that I imagine a lot of people are looking at it, it comes at a cost. It's no longer something that we can expect to be not infringed upon in its current moment, because out of sheer desperation and the fact that I've seen Steve Mnuchin. I got a video where he even mentioned that, we're at war. So the fact that all the politicians are now using that war talk in times of war, they make sure that they extend their, I guess they call it their leadership, but yet we call it their abuse of power. And so this freedom that we're talking about here will come at a cost. And that's when we can go a little bit right field or left field with that at the true cost of maintaining the current freedoms we have and not having it, not having more taken from us. And then, I can go down the road with that. But then again, if I go down that road, ain't no taking it back. So I'm gonna keep that to myself for now. But you all know what it costs to go out there and to claim what's yours. It comes with a hefty cost. And you got to be willing to lay down something for it. So, but anyway, so with that being the case, let me keep moving. I just want to check in, get your guys' thoughts, let you know the results of the survey. So freedom is an overwhelming winner out of this survey here. But there's people out there that, obviously from health and finances also have other thoughts they want to share. So the New York Redneck says, without freedom, we don't have finances. Without finances, we don't have health. Way to lay it out there for us. I bought a freezer a month ago and filled it with meat. That's what it is, man. Freedom is a system where the government can't confiscate your gold and stop your buying power. Digital oil. Okay, so we taking it there with the freedom aspect when it comes to the financial sovereignty. I dig that. What else we got here? It says, question, I was thinking the reason for the shutdown, do you think it might be to put up that network? Great question there. And so so I think it was Friday. I decided to, cruise, took my kids down to the river, downtown Detroit, and just off observation, just, peeping the surroundings. And within the last month, give or take month and a half since I've been down that direction, I've noticed more towers than I've ever seen before. Like right off of I-75 freeway, which runs north-south. It's, in the city, out of the city. And there are a large amount of towers that have that particular those rectangle satellites all around them. They were in church parking lots. They were on warehouses. They was on billboards. Everyone within not even a half a mile radius of each other, all along the freeway in the city of Detroit. So I'm thinking like, wow, these are all fresh. They're new. Like I've never noticed those before. Because I follow this stuff, I would have noticed those before. So within the last month of people being forced, or almost 6 weeks now, of people being forced to stay indoors, they've been out there making sure that there's more than enough network coverage for that particular line of frequency. So it's amazing that the working class of people in the retail, the business, all the, I guess the powers that be might consider unimportant sectors, have been forced to stay in, but yet I've seen construction crews out with no mask on, having a field day on the freeway. And I'd imagine all those network individuals putting up those towers were out there with no problem. So there's definitely something behind all that. And I'd imagine that forcing people indoors, give them more time to put up stuff outdoors in hopes of people not noticing it. And so I'd imagine if you probably are cruising down some streets you might not have been down in a while, some heavily populated areas, you might see a lot more towers as well. And so definitely something, it was very alarming to me. And a lot of the areas that those towers were in where people it's not even really inhabited by people anymore in those areas. So a lot of vacant lots and stuff like that. But anyway, as I spoke to my local butcher, he told me there is no meat shortage. So again, so that's good for him. That is good for him. Hopefully it remains that way. So it sounds like his supply is plentiful. And so definitely that's good to hear. All right, so let me keep this moving right along. Let me see. I have a super chat here. Let me acknowledge this. It says Mike equals Morpheus from the Matrix. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, The Matrix, man. That's a movie that I saw 20 something years ago that really opened my eyes, and I've been questioning everything since. All right, so let me get right into it for today. So today at 10:30 was the opening of the PPP window. And within moments of it opening, there were glitches in the system. And so this is round two, roughly $300 and something billion that's available for small businesses. But yet within a couple of hours, I'm listening to a news report, and it's an individual reporting the response of the immediate demand for all these loans, to where he's saying that the big banks are telling him that they may be out of funds within days. So once again, a rolled out experiment that was designed to fail. But the biggest issue out of all this is the fact that they're funneling the Federal Reserve, Treasury are all in cahoots to funnel these funds through the too big to fail banks. And the too big to fail banks is the problem in and of themselves. They are the problem. So what I believe is actually going on as more of this stuff unwinds is that, let me say it this way. The Federal Reserve is laundering currency through the banking sector under the disguise that it's for the small banks, while all along, this too big to fail banks are no longer truly regulated. And so we don't know if the funds are actually going out to small businesses, because we've heard from our first round, which only lasted a week or so, that the big players, those with publicly traded companies, were getting all the funds. And of course, now that the mainstream media seem to catch on, some of those companies are sending the funds back. So that should free up a couple more billion to go to small businesses. But once again, we don't know who's receiving these funds, because there's thousands upon thousands of applicants. And all the funds lie in the hands of the too big to fail banks. Now, let me ask you a question. Out of all the entities on the planet right now that stand to lose the most outside of governments with confidence in the currency, what other industry might be having some major issues, as there are a record amount of bankruptcies about to be filed right now? I got an article here. I'm going to pull that up in a minute. There's a lot of major retailers going to go file for bankruptcy, Chapter 11. And then you have all the retail, commercial, the real estate, and all the credit card loans that are defaulting right now. So who extended all those loans? The banking sector. So this money, this currency has been funneled through the Treasury and the Federal Reserve as a bailout for small businesses, is actually sitting in the possession of the banks that stands to lose the most, while they're supposed to be dishing it out to the small fries, but it's not making it out. And if it is making it out, we don't know about it. So are you surprised? Not at all, because this whole scheme of small business loans, this payment protection program funneled through the too big to fail banks, is designed to provide immediate liquidity for banks that are currently right now writing off billions upon billions of non-performing loans, which stands to grow even more after this month of April. So, come May is when stuff hits the water, and everybody will find out the total billions lost or that need to be discharged off of those banks' balance sheets. Therefore, those are some packaged up securities and all that other crap they be selling to people as assets is about to go toxic. Okay. So so I just gave you the whole rundown. So let me show you some articles and then we can go from there. So let me get back into some articles here. Let me stop screen share. Okay. So let me share some of these articles here so you guys can see what I see. And then we can get right into it. So here's just some articles that I grabbed that I thought was worth mentioning because it just shows more of how they're papering over the surface with, stuff like here. And this is from an article, news source, Benziga. I don't know who they are, but caught my attention. It says the SBA PPP loan systems crashes within minutes of second round launch. And then as I was reading through this, there's a lot of tweets here. And so this is this morning when it first launched. It says, according to an industry source, the SBA Gov e-Trans system used for the PPP loans is already running into issues. Platform opened at 10:30 today, and the second round of $310 billion in small business loans. And then it says this page isn't working. So within minutes of people flooding to try to get some type of loan relief, the systems don't work. Here's another tweet here. It says, let me stop this. What is this chick talking about? It says, this morning, SBA Gov resumed accepting applications for the PPP. Find out more here. It says more than $2 billion of the first round of PPP funding was either declined or returned and will be made available during the current application period. So not only out of that first 300 or something billion or whatever, only $2 billion out of that first round was returned. So didn't we hear about all the too big to fail businesses and publicly traded companies that got funds? And apparently only $2 billion, according to this source here, has been returned to add to that second pool. And then let me go to this next one here, because this is what really tips it over right here. Let me get back in line here. Where'd it go? Okay, here you go. So here's the little interview done earlier by a commentator here, and I'll actually play this so you can hear what he's saying from his source. This is coming from his source. And let me pull this. Oops, let me go back. Dang it. All right, so I'll play this here, and then we can talk about it.
This out, and what they're telling me is that this money is going to be gone within days. The last one took about a week or so. One of the reasons why is because on the back end there was some glitches in terms of their technology. Also, the rules were rolling. There were some banks that weren't involved at first. Wells Fargo couldn't dole out the loans because the Federal Reserve was preventing it from doing so because it had some capital requirements it had to comply with regarding the fake account scandal. So it was a sort of work in progress. Now what we have is basically everything's set up, and what we understand is that this money, this extra whatever it is, $200-300 billion. I know we sound like I'm making like it isn't a lot. I guess it is a lot in the scheme of things, but compared to the type of stimulus is needed, I think Howard is exactly right. This isn't a lot of money. Compare this to the Fed stimulus to prop up the financial system, and you're talking tens of trillions maybe on that end. We're talking about 600 billion on this end, and we're talking about a whole that's much larger than that.
All right, so there you hear. People are saying that this current round one, round two will equate to roughly 700 billion. So once again, we're in the billions, and those billion, the B's and the T's, trillions, and they're thrown out there very loosely these days because that's what's needed to get us through a week, by a week now. So the Federal Reserve is buying up. I read something about 40 billion worth of assets from all around the world, or providing liquidity to the tune of 40 billion per week. And so every week now, billions is needed to just keep this thing going. And so here we have roughly 700 billion being brought into existence from nothing, funneled through the banking sector. The banks, and then he's talking about here, Wells Fargo was not allowed to participate in the first round because of all the fraudulent activity Wells Fargo has been tied in over the years, creating fake accounts and money laundering and all types of stuff. The too big to fail banks have completely ruined. They've ruined the economy. They've ruined the global economy, and that's just global monetary system. But all this is designed and set up by them and ran by them. So not surprised there. But here we have a gentleman here saying that 700 billion thus far has been brought into existence. It will not be enough. because it pales in comparison to the amount of funds that was needed for the too big to fail banks 10 plus years ago. And so they end up quantitative easing for them was to the tune of, whether I think they were, buying, 50 billion a month for like 8-9 years. So quantitative easing lasts a decade, and it equated to 4.2 trillion. And here we are 2 weeks into this new PPP program. We're witnessing the fact that it's not going to work, but yet it's all designed to keep the banks in operation. And it's not really designed for the small businesses. So the third round will be announced definitely in May. So it's no doubt that within the next couple of days, this 350 are going to run out, and they're going to be coming with something else. So the thing is, knowing this, why wouldn't they just go ahead and say, let's just go ahead and throw 2 trillion, 3 trillion at it? And the reason they are not going to do that is because they want to always give that false sense of hope that they can contain this thing, that they can help reopen the economy and get people back to work. All along, Senator Pelosi or whatever Pelosi was talking about the importance of now looking at universal basic income. And so let me get right into this article here, because this is something that I just couldn't help but laugh at this one. And then I actually had to go back and just do some defining of words. So here's an article here. This is from this morning. So during this little 2-minute video segment, the reporter asked Pelosi about her thoughts on, what's going on now and reopening the economy and stuff like that. So it looks like there's one narrative that wants to reopen the economy, and it's more so coming from the Republican side. I believe it's led by President Trump, because he wants to try to get the economy rolling again heading into November for his own personal reasons outside of whatever else. And I think the Democratic side wants to play hardball by being a little stingy on the funding to do this. And so Pelosi here looks like she's playing ball for some reason. I think this is that they're all trying to set each other up for whatever reason. And so here she's talking about, here's the article here. She was asked a question about reopening and looking at this from a long-term perspective. And then the reporter threw out something saying that, what about the people not able to work and da-da-da-da? She's like, well, we need to look at this. And so here we have, it says, Pelosi says universal basic income could be worthy of attention now as this pandemic stifles the economy. And so right when she said that, I was going to attempt to do a video earlier, but I'm thinking like, I'll just save it for tonight. But yet think about this word income. I actually looked up the word income, and the definition provided was something around the lines of currency or money earned for work or investing. And I'm thinking like, how can, apart from the fact that I've been talking about UBI, which I've changed the word to UBA several years ago now, but universal basic income was a part of the game plan. We knew that 2-3 years ago when we were talking about it, but yet it's not really income. Like, as people mentioned in the chat, the stimulus, when's the next round of stimulus checks coming? And so once again, stimulus is not really a good word to use either, other than the fact it sounds good. It's a play on words to get people, make people feel as if it's something that I think we need or they need or whatever. I'm not sure. But this to me lets me know that universal basic, I use the word allowance because it fits better. And if you look up the word allowance, we all know what allowance means. It means something that's handed out or given out with nothing earned on top of it. So let me actually, for the sake of, let me look this word up because I forgot what the official definition was, but it was quite interesting. It says an allowance, the amount of something that is permitted, especially within a set of regulations or for a specified purpose. And so basically what this means to me is that if the government giveth, the government has the right to taketh away. And we start off today talking about what do we stand to lose the most of? And it happens to be our freedom. And so the more that we, the populace, accept this idea of stimulus directly injected into people's bank account until they roll out that digital e-dollar system that's coming, which as of January 2021, the Boost Act is set to kick in if that goes through. So the Democratic side is already preparing us for the Boost Act, which is the direct deposits continuously, month by month, at whatever amount. It's all in the fact that it's given as an allowance because it's something that's permitted within a set of regulations. So within those regulations, as people welcome this or accept this stimulus or handout or allowance, you're selling your freedom. You're selling the right you're basically turning over your rights to the issuer of those funds because you didn't work for it. So do we have a right to get mad when they propose something that will infringe more upon our rights while they're giving us an allowance? So it's like, take your choice. Do you want an allowance or do you want your freedom? So this is the thing where I said, freedom comes at a cost. And I think a lot of Americans, unfortunately, don't recognize the true cost of opening themselves up to getting an allowance from the government. Because once the government gives you an allowance, they're going to keep giving it to you until they run the system in the ground. But then along the way, you're basically selling your freedom to them. And what they dish to us, you really can't complain. And so this is something where we have to address this on a serious level if it's meant to address. Because once again, I'm one person with a group of people tuning in now that I probably feel the same way. But unless we, echo this to more people, we could just be speaking to ourselves. But anyway, enough rant. Let me get into the chat a little bit more. I apologize for that. He says, rethinking about income can simply mean the opposite of expense, not a specifically currency for work. That's very true. And so, Spirit, I was just going upon a definition provided, and I'll actually pull this up here. This is just this is just my interpretation of this definition here. And so from this dictionary source here, I don't know who, it says money received, especially on a regular basis for work or through investments. And so just based upon the word income from this definition here, I'll take that one and run with it because once again, as I mentioned, universal basic enslavement, rethinking the debt. So basically by them offering us an allowance, they're going to want something back in return is what I'm getting at. And so there's other governments around the world also suggesting the same thing. But ultimately what they're looking to do is they're looking to buy our freedom from us, buy our freedom to choose certain God-given rights that we forfeit the moment we get on their payroll, all while this is heading towards that inevitable falling off a cliff where they have to then issue another whole new monetary system in of itself. And so let me get into the chat a little bit more, and then we can get into some calls. So as always, if there's any calls or any thoughts in the chat, feel free to let me know, and we can go from there. It says protests. And so, yeah, freedom costs, man. And it's one of the things where I keep saying that because look at all the other prior events in history where the people were up, their backs were against the wall, and they had to make a life-defining, they were put in a life-defining moment where it's either you go left, you go right, but you got to what direction you're going to go. And that's what we're approaching right now. And that's why, I see more people now talking about reopen the economy. The economy, apart from our leadership position themselves as offering the best solutions, the economy should have never closed. I think they should have gave the people the choice to choose and let the consequences fall where they may. But yet, giving each individual the right to choose whether or not they want to stay active in the work field or not. And because we're at this point now, by the economy being completely closed with open, globally it's completely closed. Now we're at a point where they talk about reopening it in segments. And I believe this reopening campaign on certain states and whatnot is a setup, because I'd imagine those states that are going to reopen first, a little bit wider, those are the states that have not been heavily impacted. And I believe that more than likely the powers that be are hoping that those states that reopen a little bit earlier than the states that have been hit hard will then be the second wave that I believe the establishment wants to see. And if that is the case, by them reopening those states that have minimum cases, once things flare up there, which whether they do or they don't, they probably will not. But the mainstream media, will run with it, and therefore the government will have to respond and say, hey, now it's time to shut it down for 90 days now, 60 days. So I believe this is all a setup. It's all a setup because the ultimate goal and the fact that we have politicians now preaching a continuous allowance program that starts in January 2021. If this Boost Act goes through, lets me know that they would rather see fluctuations in reopening, closing all the way through to 2021, buying time for the time where they roll out that mandatory, everybody got to take that thing, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's what it is. But it says, Mike, you sound like the folks in 1918. Marquise, shine some light, my friend. Let me know what you're thinking. Who is going to bail out the cities and the U.S. pensions? Oh, Rolf. All right. So yeah, I got another article here with that one. Let me see here. So yeah, so here's something that will need to be addressed. New York City needs $7.4 billion in Federal Reserve aid amongst this whole pandemic situation. And so because New York is a major hub, it's a Wall Street hub. And the fact that it's been severely hindered because of closing down, once again, I don't think having shut down the economy really saved a lot of lives in comparison to the lives lost, because according to the numbers, especially if everybody's labeled as being impacted by that certain pandemic, then I don't think those numbers are any different than the flu. It just happened to be magnified because of mainstream media. If New York wouldn't have shut down, they wouldn't have this problem. But the goal all along, in my opinion, was to further escalate these debt problems, which New York has one, Illinois has one, and California has one, and so now they're in need of bailouts. But the bailouts are more so for the pensions. The fact that most of these states now are well underfunded, and what better way to try to get caught up other than getting some government aid? So never could the Federal Reserve or the United States government mention that we need to bail out pensions outright, because everybody will pitch a fit. But you can now look to funnel some funds to those pensions to keep the retirees happy, even though I think in the long run, this whole retirement narrative, the way that it's been positioned, it's already hit a snag in the road, because now if retirees are expected to receive funds out of their accounts from currency that's been accruing interest, the whole compound interest, over time concept that, we're about to see compound inflation pretty soon. But I'd imagine having worked all your life to set aside and save, and then to fall into the boat where everybody around you will end up getting an allowance payment that kind of it dilutes and water down your monthly payment, it would piss me off. I can admit, if I set aside all my life funds, did the responsible thing to what I was told to do, and all of a sudden I got a young 20-year-old getting stimulated, and I actually set aside to save for my retirement. This guy getting stimulated, and we're both competing on buying the same goods. Problem is, my currency I set aside, and it was growing for me. And this young fellow over here, this young gal, got some freshly printed digits, and they out here living just as good, if not comparably good as me. At the same time, the housing market gonna crash, and you're gonna lose all your net worth, all that crap. Yeah. Anyway, I'm getting a little carried away. So let me check out the chat, and also let's get this thing started. I'll turn on a couple of calls. Phone lines are open. Give me a call. Love to hear your thoughts on any of the subject matter discussed, or whatever else is on your mind. Feel free to do so. I would love to hear from you this evening. It says my union pension will be worthless than dirt. Yeah, Rob B. That's what like right now, because of this monetary policy, it's unprecedented, and it is monetarily irresponsible of the central banks around the world to do what they're doing, but they have to do it. And so this is why I've been shining light and talking about the pension crisis and the retirement crisis that will be further sped up by this counterfeiting. Like, it's legalized counterfeiting. And so who gets shafted? Like, retirees and pensioners, their current portfolios are being diluted by all this extracurricular currency that's coming out of nowhere that everybody else get to enjoy. We're all competing against the same goods. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Money Mike. What's up, man?
How you doing, boss man? What's your name?
Louisiana.
What's your name?
Lionel from Louisiana, man.
Lionel. How you doing, my friend? Give me some good news from Louisiana.
Oh, man. Long time listener, first time caller, man. Love your show, bro.
Appreciate you, my man. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Hey, man, look, the government the government of Louisiana, the governor, John Bell Edwards, he just initiated a shutdown to extend to the next month.
Ooh.
So the shutdown continues down in Louisiana, man. And like many other states, we're in a pension crisis, brother, and the state is broke.
Ah, man, yeah. So up the same boat, everybody up the same creek without a paddle, heading to a damn waterfall.
That's right.
Oh,
and
man.
the issue is real, man. And the question is, the question is, at the end of the day, which side of the table do you want to sit on? Because all societies, all countries, all civilization that printed money extensively, it ended with blood in the streets. History does not lie. It has happened time and time again. And the U.S. is no exception.
Yeah. And it's one of the things where it has to occur. It would have been great 10 years ago had they let the system correct itself. With the pain will probably be over with by now. We would have adjusted to the new norm. But now they further escalated this thing to a point where now it's going to be even that much more pain. And man, yeah, I'm lost for words, man.
and you know some of the good folks in the chat, which I love your show and I love the people that listens in, man. But some people are screaming for revolution, and my question is, revolution for what? Revolt for what? This country is owned by the central banks now, hands down. Yeah. Andrew Jackson would have been turning over in his grave right now. The country is done. America is over.
Yeah.
It's printing too much money. The debt is out of control. We're losing control in terms of the purchasing power of the dollar. Countries are struggling to get that coveted position of the world reserve currency, and we're losing that too, by the way.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a big part of the reason why we are still afloat.
Yeah.
But the game is over. The music is starting to stop, man. So I again, man, I just wanted to say those words and keep up the good work, man. And I'm gonna tell your listeners what you always tell everybody else. Hey, listeners, get your weight up.
Very true, man. I appreciate you calling, my friend.
Say, man, get your weight up.
Appreciate
you.
All
right, man, brother. Keep up the good work, man.
Thank
Peace.
you, kind sir.
All right.
Oh, man, good stuff. Good stuff. I appreciate that call. Yeah, so, as always, get your weight up. And that's another thing I wanted to make sure, today, got a nice little stack. Keep getting your weight up, man. Take this allowance you're given and put it to work. It's meant to be redeemable in nature. Man, let me see another call here. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Mike, Tony from Oakland, brother.
Tony from Oakland. How you doing, my friend?
I don't know, man. They got us locked down here, and they're talking about shutting down 74 miles of roads around here. They've already got the city shut down. You can't drive in or out of it.
So as of now, like, it's been extended, and so I mean, give me the layout of that shutdown. Like, so if you get in your car, you can't get on freeways, or like, what does that look like?
Well, right now, they said they implemented last Friday, but they're going slowly about it. It's like boiling a frog.
Mm-hmm.
They're going real slow about it. And someone just texted today, Sausalito, which is a prominent rich area known for artistry.
Mm-hmm.
They shut our city down, and you can't get in, you can't park, you can't get in, you can't get out. Oakland's just across the water from it, and they said they're going to shut down 74 miles out of the 124 miles, which is about 60% of Oakland, where you're going to be able to do nothing but walk up and down the street. And I continue down the path of a slow frog being boiled.
Yeah.
Once they get your car on your feet, then they can come and let a window get broke, and then the military starts coming in.
Whew. Now, I remember, I think about a week or two ago, we were talking about stuff being boarded up. So I'd imagine all the business districts in that little region there, are they boarded up and prepared for something of that nature? From what you see,
they've got paper on the windows, just so people ain't trying to see what they have back behind them. But for the most part, everybody shut down, and they're like loving it. I'm like, you guys don't realize what's going on here. You don't even have a clue. Right now, we got 70 oil tanker ships sitting off the coast in L.A. full.
70, really?
70. 200 in China, full.
Yeah.
Who's going to get that oil? We just
Right.
sold oil for negative $39.
Right.
What's next month look like?
Right. And so here I got an article on the screen right now. It says it's about today. Oil plunges 25%, extending recent losses as storage fills. And so we're being set up for June. We're having the same issues of, they're not being anywhere to store because they're backed up. So imagine like if it was negative 37, this last little go around, it could be negative 70, 80 at the end of May, getting ready to settle those June futures contracts. So, and that, go ahead.
The U.S. actually can flip the script on everybody since we're being the number one oil producer. They're like, you want our oil? You got to take delivery. Otherwise, you got to find a spot for it.
Yeah, and that's it. And that sounds like too much of a, being proactive. And so our government tends to be reactive. So I don't see anybody stepping up, suggesting something like that will be considered responsible. That's not going to happen.
But listen, I said we were number one.
Yeah.
Number one makes the rules.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want you to look up, man, if you get a chance, look up CureVac, CUREVAC. Look at the names behind it. Bill Gates, coronavirus 19. That may be our next vaccine.
Pure, say that, or spell that for me one time.
CureVac, CUREVAC.
VAC, CureVac. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. And I just started digging into this. I got hit to just trying to find out what's going on with Bill Gates and why he's back and all this other stuff that's going on. And there's a company out of Germany, and Trump's trying to lure them over here with their vaccine to help us out with our problem we got. So that's a good one to look into for everybody that's listening.
I will.
And let's get it. Streets. Let's blast them. Let's tell them we know what they're doing.
Yeah, man. I told man, I appreciate you, man. As always, man. Keep us informed as what's going on out there, man. I'm curious.
Hey, man, keep your head up.
All right, be good.
Bye.
Yeah, man. That's real talk. Real talk from Oakland, California. I appreciate you, my friend. All right, so let me check in the chat. As always, give me a call back. I'd love to hear some more stories of what's going on out there. It says storage issues is going to make a few people or nations rich. Yeah, that's the thing. Like for the mainstream struggle that we're being told, there's always people that short and back up these industries that are making a killing. Like for all these billions being created, they're being funneled right into the hands of a lot of people or a small amount of people, and they're becoming billionaires. As always, there's going to be more billionaires that exit this crisis than went into it. And so hopefully some of the people who hold undervalued assets can be recipients of the destruction of our currency into that next system. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Dwayne from Midwest. What's going on, Mike?
How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind? Give me some news.
I just going to think. We got to put our thinking caps on.
Okay.
We got to put down all the political. This one's going to help us. No politician, including the president, no one's been honest right now. All right, you know what our biggest crisis is in this country?
What's that?
Our biggest crisis is not the jobs, not the economy. Our biggest crisis is a leadership crisis. That is the biggest crisis. We have a leadership crisis.
Yeah.
That's our problem. We have leaders. We don't have a servant leadership. Not in no state, no White House, no one. Everybody has their own agenda. If anyone cannot see, we are going through a bankruptcy right now. What is the one thing that President Donald Trump did well? It's bankruptcy.
Exactly. He always gets a good deal through bankruptcy.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I would dare say he has had some of the biggest bankruptcies in this country.
Yeah.
Who else have dealt with municipalities, Atlantic City, municipalities, governments? He has had some of the biggest foreign banks. He has said he is the man for the hour. This is his job. His job is he's like, you're from Detroit. He's like the Michael Orr of the United States. I mean, Kevin Orr of the United States. Remember Kevin Orr, the emergency manager that took Detroit to the bankruptcy?
Yeah. I wasn't paying attention to our economy and the monetary system then, but I'm still witnessing the ripple effects from that. Yes.
Right, but but he is the emergency manager, Kevin Orr. No one has a resume like Donald Trump. No president has a resume for dealing with bankruptcy like Donald Trump, to dealing with debts and negotiation, restructuring contracts. But he's not restructuring contracts for us. He's going to restructure contracts for people of interest.
Mm-hmm. No doubt, no doubt. And so, like always, all presidents, to my knowledge, they leave better than they came in. And the only difference now is Donald Trump came in good. So imagine how much better it has to get for him to leave better than he came in.
Exactly. Now, granted, he does do some good things. He does do some things I don't. But we have to think realistically. Mm-hmm. At this point, we have to leave the feelings out of it. You have to think like an American. Yeah. Yeah. The American that you once had is over. No billionaire with a bankruptcy history is thinking about the little guy. Right. I just saw an article where the Los Angeles Lakers is going to give back some people. They got PPP funds.
Yeah, I saw some NBA too. Yeah, I saw that, man.
Los Angeles Lakers.
And so here's the thing.
When does the Los Angeles Lakers become an SBA, a small business?
So here's the question. Watch this. So did these organizations, these publicly traded companies and sports franchises, did they actually send in an application to apply, or did the too big to fail banks go down their top 10 creditors or debtors and say, here's a little something, since you've been so good to us, let me throw you something, assuming that there would be no uproar to where people would find out about it, to where it would have went under the rug. But we're being told that it's been sent back. We can't verify that. So, the Lakers could be called out for it, and it could be in the mainstream media, but nobody audits the too big to fail banks. Or will we see any transparent paperwork saying that the funds were debited and credited back? So, once again, would you still want to believe that?
Oh no, I think you're right. I think you're actually right. I think there is no. Come on now. Do you think that really went down on a website and filled out the paperwork like you and I would have to do?
Not at all.
Do you think they really did that?
Not at all.
Come on, man. Let's be honest. Do you think they really got together and say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna put these paperwork together"? Make sure you send over our financials. Come on, man. You think they really did that? They did just what you said. They saw their creditors. They got a free window, a free lending facility. They shipped money in there. They gave it to them. Somebody got upset. Some good Samaritan like you or I got upset and went to the paper and said, "I'm blowing the whistle on this dang old thing because this is just too evil." Yeah, man. It's too evil.
Hey, man, I appreciate your calling. Let me get a couple more calls in real quick, but I appreciate your calling, man. Good to hear from you.
Love the show. Keep it going.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, we got a couple more minutes. Feel free to give me a call. And so I saw something in the chat I want to touch on. Lamar, it says military in Vegas running the drive-through testing facility with the police. Give me some. I'm curious to find out about military in Vegas, man. Is there anything out there in the media? Let me know. Let me get Mr. Call. Give me a call back. And then also want to talk about. Let me see, military, Las Vegas military. Curious to find out more about that one. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
It's Bob from Illinois again.
Bob from Illinois. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. So, like I say, I'm in a small town, but I'm right across from Indiana. I'm right on the border, basically. Mm-hmm. Things are looking better. People aren't wearing so many masks. Seeing more people getting out. And that's all great. What's it like in Detroit now? Because I used to live there.
So Detroit is hit or miss. Like, when you're out and about, and as I mentioned earlier, yesterday had an incident. Well, not an incident, but just a little bump in. Me and my wife was in the grocery store, and so in the grocery store now they've sectioned out the aisles where they're one-way aisleways in our major. So you have to go up one way, and they got arrows and stuff like that. So they've done a good job of conditioning us to obey orders. And so that's what I noticed in the grocery store. But yet we were going down the wrong way, and a lady got mad at my wife saying, "Didn't you see that arrow? You should be going the opposite direction." So like people are taking this, like, I think the conditioning aspect is really kicked in because over 95% of the people in the store had a mask on. And so it's like, okay, people are really conscientious of this. I see people walking their dogs. They got masks on. I'm thinking like, damn, like, so people are taking this a little bit. Yeah, they're taking it serious. So whatever that's worth.
All right. Well, let me bring up something because I've been thinking about this, and I guess a few days ago, a Stanford University medical study came out,
mm-hmm.
and they've been looking at the numbers.
Yeah.
This coronavirus, is no worse than any other flu that we've seen over the last few years. You can go look up the numbers. All right. So there is no corona. All they did is say. I mean, they started out with that Event 201, and then it was a bioweapon, and here we are. But the biggest problem is they come up with this test, which is 80% false positive. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I initially questioned the whole testing mechanism because my initial thought, just to go way left field, is that, I wouldn't be surprised if the tests were contaminated themselves to really spread.
Oh, yeah.
So I was thinking that a long time ago.
We're not going to let you out because the virus just hasn't ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I appreciate you as always. Let me get a couple more calls in, but thanks for keeping us in tune with what's going on in your neck of the woods, man. Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Appreciate the call. Oh, man. So, yeah, take a couple more calls and we'll get ready to dial back and pick up again tomorrow, Lord willing. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? Hello?
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. Man, who am I speaking with?
Mike, this is Mark from, hello, can you hear me?
I hear you. Go ahead, Mark.
This is Mark from Cleveland, Ohio area.
All right, Cleveland, Ohio in the building. Give me some good news out of Cleveland, man.
I would say about what's going on, this thing with you guys in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to come with a little different perspective than what I'm hearing from some of the people that's been calling in. So,
okay.
I'm pretty sure you've heard of Cliff High, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I'm still under the belief, because I work in the medical field, I think that this is a bioweapon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the numbers that we're seeing here are false, but to the downside.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you remember Ron Emanuel from Chicago. They'll never let a good crisis go to waste.
Right.
I think that's what you're seeing right now with our administration.
Yeah.
As far as doing the things that they were never able to pass in any regular economy. Like I know, everyone listening to this show know that the banks were failing on getting bailouts in September of 2019.
Right.
And I think this was part. I mean, there's more agendas being covered, but I think this was part of them getting bailout without actually saying, you know what, we need the money like 2008.
Yeah.
We're blaming it on the virus.
Yeah.
And people need to get through their heads, honestly, that the American Republic, as you think it is not going to be the same anymore. So get your mind out of the politicians are here for us, Republican, Democrat. Ignore all that shit. You have to defend for yourself.
Right.
Meaning, you got to start growing your own food. Like you said, build up your weight.
Mm-hmm.
You got to buy gold and silver. You got to buy cryptos. And you got to be independent. You got to look up for you because the government ain't going to do it.
Right.
They're going to lie to you every single time. They're lying to you in every avenue as far as testing, as far as not letting you know that this is actually a bioweapon. I mean, a whole bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they know, like you said, if the economy closes and people lose their job, they know that they can control people more if they keep funding them through stimulus.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I hear you, man. Well, thanks for calling in, my friend. It's always good to hear from our fellow people close to the good state of Michigan. So I appreciate you, my friend. Be safe down there.
Oh, yeah. Also, one more thing, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you can, man, you should get on your show if you could interview him. Guy out of Chicago named John Titus.
John Titus.
Yes.
All right, I will look him up, my friend. I love to hear some good recommendations. Appreciate you. Thanks for that. I'll definitely look for him.
Yeah.
All right. Be good. All righty. That was a good one, Isaiah. I appreciate that, man. So with that being the case, that is all she wrote for this evening. About to get ready to dial back and get ready for another day tomorrow. Tuesday, got an interview tomorrow. So I'm excited to have my guy Mike from MZ Bullion. So I got the creator of the RTD coins coming on tomorrow. So definitely going to have an opportunity for all the viewers. If you guys are interested in getting your weight up, might be something special for you guys. So you might want to tune into that one. And then also I wanted to acknowledge those that have been a blessing to the channel. And as I promised those that I wanted to definitely, for those that are a blessing to me, I want to make sure I do my best to help acknowledge their presence. So I created the RTD Wall of Fame. So the Wall of Fame is simply all those that have contributed and continue to contribute to the work here, because once again, it's one of the things where putting in hard sweat and tears and all that stuff like that. And of course, the overhead costs for all this stuff. It definitely helps to have people who support me on Patreon. So if anybody interested in joining the partnership that we have, definitely feel free to do so via Patreon at the bottom of this screen here. And other than that, people, it has been great hanging out this evening. Definitely enjoyed it, and hope everyone stays well. Definitely get your weight up. Come back tomorrow. I think about 2 p.m. 2 p.m. tomorrow. I got my guy Mike joining us, and so definitely gonna have an opportunity for you guys to get some weight if you're interested. If you don't like weight, no need to come. But anyway, we're gonna have a little interesting his perspective based upon what's happening in the metals realm and the scarcity that's building up when it comes to getting your weight up. So right now, like always, is the best time to get your weight up, because it's probably as cheap as it's ever going to be, even though it's considered to be expensive because of the premiums. At this point, there's no premium that's too expensive for getting some real funds in your hands. So with that being the case, everybody be blessed, be safe. If you've enjoyed the back and forth tonight, don't be afraid to donate a thumbs up. Just click the button beneath here, show your support. And once again, no teleprompter here, so this is straight talk where you get a chance to share your thoughts. So share this video with your family and friends. Invite them to come join us in the community, and then they can also get up to date and be educated on what's happening from an alternative perspective. So other than that, be blessed, be safe. See you guys later. Peace.